Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery. This is one of my very favorite special episodes where we actually get to hear and experience real life stories of real people making real change and making a big difference in our, I'm going to just say community, I guess, if you will, because it's more than just a community, because it's profession, it's livelihood, it's personal relationships, it's all kinds of things. But, so in this community of people who are passionate about life recovery, whatever that journey may look like, I just love when we get to actually have these wonderful organic conversations and record them for everybody else to actually get to hear, because without technology today, we would not get to hear so much that really enriches our life, that really helps us feel valid, valued, worthy. And so I just love doing these special spotlights on people that I know, that I value, and that I just really am impressed by. So anyway, without further ado, my guest today, and I hope I say this correctly, is Tom Tenney. And got it right? Tom is the CEO of an organization called 12th Step. And 12th Step fosters healthy connections and hope for those who are in difficult moments of addiction recovery, in treatment, through the creation of care package services that is in alignment with each person's treatment goals. Anyway, it's super awesome. Can't wait for you to hear about it. However, I'm going to make you wait a little bit, because my favorite part is hearing how Tom even got to this space to come up with and create something that I think is probably one of the most beautiful things for that assertive continuum of care process in addiction treatment. So, Tom, I'm going to welcome you here. Say hello, introduce yourself, but tell us, how do you even get into this journey? I know you have a recovery story, and I've heard it, and I just want everybody else to experience you as well.
Well, thank you, Trisha. It's a pleasure to be on here today and share my story and a little bit about why I do the things I do. I've learned in my life that there's really 2 days that are important in our lives. One is the day we're born, and 2 is the day we find out why. And, I finally got to that point. Gosh, it was, 38 years after being born, they started to figure out why I was born and what I'm supposed to be doing. But my story is not unlike a large majority of us who suffer addiction. I don't have a grandiose story where I, had these adventures or these horrible things. I'm like a lot of us. I started my addiction after a major surgery. When I was 20 years old, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I had to have a major stomach surgery. And while I was in the hospital, I was introduced to Dilaudid, and truth is, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave the hospital because I became instantly enthralled with that. I grew up a very strong Christian young man, and after I left the hospital, they did prescribe me with Vicodin, and that was the second best thing to Dilaudid. And so I did as a lot of people do. I suffered a lot of pain. So I felt absolutely justified in asking the doctor for continued prescriptions. And the pain didn't subside for quite a while. It took about 6 months for the doctor to finally say, Tom, you really don't need this anymore. So I did go through detox and withdrawal, where you're, at night having cold sweats in your eyes, wanting to know what's going on. And so my story is very similar to a lot of people who are currently suffering addiction. And that's my basic story about how you know, I understood what addiction is like.
But I love that. I love, and I don't love that that's your story, but I love that that's your story. I mean, I work with people every day that have very similar stories, very, you know, similar journeys. And a lot of times it's, you know, I had to have this procedure, this surgery, or I got in this accident, or, you know, I got this diagnosis that's going to be a chronic issue. And right, like part of my own story was also, you know, chronic pain from autoimmune disease and a body that attacked itself. And so we know that they are addictive, but we don't know what we don't know. And and it ends up, right, like even my anxiety medication that was, you know, the supportive, like I didn't realize it was wreaking such havoc on my body, and that physiological addiction. You know, most people, I think, have like a pretty narrow perspective around addiction and what that looks like and recovery, right? Like it's not just the down, the out, the ill, the poorly functioning, and the people that need to be removed from their life. It's everyday people that get handed a prescription, or, you know, get turned on to some organic something or another that's supposed to be all natural that you could buy over the counter, but you still can physiologically develop, right? And so, you know, or people think, oh, you know, you didn't go through the heavy withdrawals. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, right? And you have to learn to sit in and move through it. I'm so glad that you and I are about at the same time, 10 years, right? You know, sit in and move through that uncomfortable and figure it out. So tell me a little bit about that whole early free of pain medication period. I don't know if you call it recovery or what you call it, but
Sure.
you know, how hard was that?
It was hard. And I really, the time in which it made a big difference was when I found out a close family member was also struggling with addiction to the same thing. And that opened my eyes to realize that I wasn't alone, because I grew up in a very, very tight-knit community. I grew up in Prescott, Arizona, and there, my family name was everywhere. My grandfather served in the state senate and was a state representative for 20 years total. So I had this, you know, what is it, a podium that I had to present myself under. You know, oh, you're a Tenney. And so I suffered in silence for a long time, and never really shared it with anyone. Though I stopped 10 years ago, I really didn't get to talk about it because nobody would, you know, I felt like I was alone in that. But, you know, fast forward 10 years later, I was asked to help in the addiction industry. A close friend of mine of our family reached out. This was a time in which I was let go from a job because I was part of a startup, and they grew too fast and lost money real fast. And so my friend contacts me, hey, Tom, I know you're looking for work, but I could really use your help right now. And he owned an addiction treatment center, and said, I really, you know, there's a perfect storm, unfortunately, right now, and I really need some help getting in contact with other treatment centers. And so that's the fast forward to today, being introduced to that industry. And, you know, that's really where I started my real passion, was once I started working as Chief Experience Officer at Addiction Treatment Center. But can tell you the story. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to hear that part of the story yet, but yeah,
sure. So you know, I think it's all extremely fascinating. And you know, when somebody says, you know, like Oh, first of all, I love that your doctor said, okay, look, it's been 6 months. You've been taking these, right? Like you don't need them anymore. That's something we don't always hear in the industry is a doctor that's, especially not 10 years ago, right?